Danny Flexon here for Seconds Out with my... Now, would I call him a friend? So I'm just mimicking Tris Dixon's Life Stories. I was listening to this on the way here. But Tris says at the start of Life Stories, I thought it was really funny. He said, would I call him a friend? He's always been at the end of the phone when I've needed him. And I thought, he's not at the end of the phone for me a lot of the time, so I guess not. Adam, we're here at a new boxing booth gym in, do you pronounce it Merstham?
Yes.
Brilliant, it's a good start. Merstham in Surrey. Just looks like an amazing facility. You've got things here that you didn't have at the old gym. Just tell us about the adaptation.
The adaptation, well, no, this is everything I've ever needed. Haven't had my own gym now for a few years, actually. I've just been like a little hobo going around because it was so difficult to find the right location with the right space. And we eventually did last year and flattened it, rebuilt it, and now we're in. I'm delighted. It's like I said, it's the space, the size, and the equipment. It's all I need.
You may not notice Adam's sitting on top of what do we call these boxes?
Is he zooming out for this or not? I feel like write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Younger viewers may not know what that is, but yeah, it's a very funny sketch show. Very funny, I promise. But yeah, he's sitting up here kind of dwarfing me for some reason. I think there must be some sort of mind games going on. He's giving me the occasional kick in the nuts while I'm down here as well, which I'm assuming is an accident. I'm hoping it's an accident.
Have you got any questions for me?
I've got loads. Yeah, all right, well, let's get on with it then. New beginnings, obviously a couple of your fighters got really big fights coming up as well, so we'll start with Josh Kelly. He's got David Avanesian. He was telling us earlier he was a little bit hurt by the public reaction when the first fight between them fell through at the last minute, basically, because he was ill. Did it affect you at all? You're very thick-skinned and experienced.
Only affected me because I saw it affecting him, but it was, it was nice and early in his career for him to toughen up a little bit emotionally, because it's the way of the world now. And like the amount of, I've been involved in a lot of scenarios where the fighter that I'm working with gets absolutely slated and criticised or whatever you want to call it. A lot of negative opinions, and those opinions just seem to be getting louder and louder as we go on in time. But these young fighters nowadays have to learn that they need to be immune to it, because at the end of the day, all of it means absolutely nothing. The only thing that matters is what they do in their career, and you judge it at the end of the journey. And I think it was a good time for him to thicken his skin a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the guys you worked with in the past who've been slated, the likes of David Hay, George Groves, of course. But they're more kind of robust characters. In some ways, they seek controversy, whereas Josh is quite a sensitive guy.
Yes, yeah, you could say that those did court and enjoy the prickly side of things, whereas Josh just wants to have fun and for everyone to get along. But that's not the world we live in. So, it was a good lesson to learn.
Got Mick Conlan here as well. We spoke to him earlier. It's looking like hopefully a world title shot this year. There's talk previously from Bob Arum originally about him perhaps moving down to super bantamweight. Is that any sort of possibility in your mind?
Well, at the moment we're focused on featherweight, so no, it's not a possibility in my mind now, because it's a featherweight championship that we're working towards, and the improvements he's making behind the scenes of actually what you see on Fight Night have been fantastic. Everything about the last two fights, especially the improvements in what he does and his understanding of why he's doing certain things, seem to have come together really nicely. And I've been asked a question before, like, how long do you think before he's ready for a world title fight? And I was always reticent to answer that question because I was still seeing the sort of the development going on, but it's been consolidated now. And so to say this year, even though he's only had 12 or 13 pro fights, him fighting for a world title, I think now is definitely a realistic possibility, and it's down to Bob Arum, Top Rank and MTK to deliver, and I'm confident they will.
Who fights for a world title first in your opinion, Mick or Josh?
Mick.
Just because he's higher in the rankings and more mature in his career?
No, just because you asked me the question and I've decided to give you an answer. You never know in boxing, right? Anything can accelerate a fighter's career, but if you're asking me, and I'll give you an answer, it looks like Mick.
The fact that you've got these guys in the gym now who are, on the whole, quite laid back, amenable, they all get on with each other, get on with you, whereas in the past you've had, at times, combative relationships with some of your charges. I think it's fair to say you're looking at me sceptically, but
I've never had
having re-listened to Life Stories earlier, there was kind of arguments you've had with David, there were arguments occasionally with George as well. Forthright exchanges of opinions, let's say.
Probably more so, it wasn't George, it was David, but that was, our ages were a lot closer together. I was only 12 years older than David, and it was my first time through, and he's not, he'll be the first to admit that he's not the easiest character to work with, but I wouldn't change that journey for the world, like all the little, not necessarily arguments, because we never really argue, but all the little prickly moments that we had just made it that much more satisfying when we achieved the success. And it's really only been David that I had that with, because I sort of learned and toughened up and gained experience on his journey, which was my journey as well. And I wouldn't say I've experienced that with anyone else, and I'm not necessarily glad I haven't. I'm glad that was David and my journey, and that was how it played out.
Better dynamic though now, or at least more, I don't know, stress-free?
You're never stress-free in boxing, because you're always, you always, now that my guys are in the proper competitive fights, I'm always hyper-focused on what's going on in training and preparing right for the fight, and you always want to get to the fight healthy and uninjured. That's the first hurdle, having done the work you need to do and making weight, and then once you're over that hurdle, you then got the hurdle of fight night. So it's a daily thing, and it's a daily stress, but must be like a moth to the flame, because I've said a long time ago, maybe another 2 or 3 years and I'll step back a little bit, and I seem to be doing the opposite. I seem to be literally on the top board, diving head first into more of it. So it can't be that bad for me.